This right back, Charlie.
I challenge Brendan Johnson and all them Spurs boys to do this.
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian, man. Come on. As usual, people deluded, I'm back again. Happy Friday. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and in some cases, good night. I hope you're all doing well and safe. I hope you're all blessed. Thank you for tuning in, whether you're on Twitch or YouTube. Make sure you're cross-following. Now, we're about 2 days, 48 hours away from the North London derby. I know Arsenal fans, the sentiment around our football club isn't necessarily negative, but isn't necessarily positive. And life is coming at us very quickly in the early part of the season. We're seeing multiple injuries, and, one begs the question, what 11 and who will be on the bench for the game against Spurs on Sunday. Of course, we had the whole referee shenanigans. We dropped 2 points against Brighton, and the current landscape sees us about to undertake a very heavy, intense and congested fixture calendar list. We know we go away to Spurs on Sunday. After that, it's a trip to Italy in the Champions League against Atalanta. This time next week, all the talking points are around Manchester City in September. And better yet, September to the end of the year is a madness, but let's deal with what's in front of us. And it's a jam-packed fixture list. Again, big up you lot in the comments. I see a comment from Inner Circle, and I'm very much aligned with him in the sense of, simply put, there's more games, there's less players. The maths isn't mathing, and it doesn't really make much sense, but it is what it is, man. Ahmed, I hope you're doing well and safe. Ola, big up yourself. Shout out in the circle as well. He said, no idea, and get your points in for what it's worth. No idea about the North London derby, and I'll be delighted and I can't say that word at the same time if we sign these bloody players before they move. I'm with you, and I feel I'm a bit harsh in that, I do think fans can't be pleased in that half of these guys that we want to sign, when they're not necessarily quote unquote household names, we say, who are they, etc., etc. But then I'm with you in a sense of, for me, I don't really care if you get players for free, or you get unknown players from wherever, or you sign household names. As long as they're the right players and they can make us better, everybody's got to start somewhere. Everybody's footballing journey is different. But I must admit, because the squad in terms of bodies and numbers, I think that's another debate, and I'm not happy with the numbers, as I've kind of alluded to. But where you look at our 11 or in general, you are of the belief in that, okay, cool, it's not like we need to sign about 5 players, which has been the case typically of our football club during the Emirates. In terms of the starting 11, when everyone's fit, there's some great options, but you can make a case of, big up Martinelli, Trossard, Raheem Sterling for a year. But if you were to grab a Nico Williams, if you was to get the Isak, the Gyökeres, on top of what Kai Havertz is doing up front, if we sign a midfielder or two, we're going to the next level. And I might be being ignorant, I might be being extremely naive, but personally, I wish the club had the same sort of remit around being stocked in the attacking half as we are in the defensive half. Now, of course, I'm probably a hypocrite in that regard, because many people will say whether I believe in them or you believe in them or not. Gabriel Jesus, Kai Havertz, Bukayo Saka, Martinelli, Trossard, Raheem Sterling for a year. I guess technically on paper, Reece Nelson's still an Arsenal player. Ethan can play up in a couple of attacking positions as well as in midfield, but yeah, we're light there, man. And, for me, I would have loved the blockbuster, the Isaks and the Seskos and all of them kind of guys. Equally, though, could you have signed a Giroud kind of striker that might not necessarily start, might be a rotationary option, might only get 10 Premier League goals for us, but those 10 goals could have been goals at moments that have turned some draw or some defeats into draws, some draws into 3 points, more points on the board. Now, no 2 seasons are alike, but you look at where we finished in May against this juggernaut of a Manchester City side, in which you hope Monday isn't positive for them. Every point counts, and we've already chasing a deficit of 2. It can be very optimistic within the Arsenal fan base or connected to our club. If we put in some positive results now, it can turn ugly again. It's unthinkable, but imagine losing to Spurs and City, or taking anything less for me than 4 to 6 points in our next 2 Premier League games. Of course, 6 out of 6 would be great. Definitely 9 from the 9 points from the available 9 at this period would have been amazing. We all know we're going to drop points, but It is what it is, man. Like, we know this North London derby, we've got a depleted squad. We're not at our best, but there's no point crumbling. We might as well keep it moving. And where to go back to what you said, where Isak's concerned, you know, you got Marino there, you've got Odegaard, the boys are being, you know, the Sociedad boys are linking up again. And Isak's an Arsenal player, man. I mean, he can play out wide, even though you want to see him play up front. The number 14 shirt is free for someone that can, you know, ironically, he's wearing the shirt now, someone that can, you know, put some respect back on that shirt, if I'm very honest with you. And he loves scoring against Spurs. Imagine, you know, statistically, he's bagged a lot of goals against Spurs for Newcastle. So imagine having him in the squad going into that, but it is what it is. Dusty Bud, what a name. What a name, man. Do you think we could have made the same signings we made without selling Smith Rowe? Yes and no, because you would imagine we would have had a transfer budget anyways. So we probably could have, but it was made clear to us that sales is something. I don't think Arsenal had to sell to buy. I think it was clearly a remit that we wanted to sell people. And obviously Smith Rowe wanted to go, really, you know, going into the North London derby. I mean, all of these players would have went, but you can, and I'm not saying they should have stayed, but you can make a case of Smith Rowe being a genuine option, either in Odegaard's role that he's obviously not going to be able to play in, or in that left 8. Fabio Vieira on the bench would have been good. I know people are not going to agree with this, but for this, and Eddie needed to go, but for this game in particular, I can't lie, Eddie and Nketiah would have started for me up front. I would have put Kai Havertz in midfield. Of course, that's not what you want to see, but it would have got the job done, man. 2 points from the next 2 games would be disappointing for me, but a real possibility. Be very disappointing. But even if we win all these games, draw all of these games, we might look back in May and thought, oh, you know what, that's where we could have done better. That's what's dented our stuff. But I'm not a fan of, you know, if we lose against Spurs or lose against City, just throwing in the towel. The season's still on. If we win, I'm not a fan of getting overexcited as well. Same way. Big up DG, big up yourself because you're there. Is it true City, Newcastle, Villa won't do business with us? Who said that? I mean, I don't know. I mean, naturally, Premier League clubs don't want to strengthen each other. You'd imagine City, I mean, I don't think they're missing Gabriel, even Raheem Sterling, but I don't think they're missing Gabriel Jesus or Zinchenko. I think the only one that they've let go that they probably missed would have been Gundogan, because they brought him back, or if anything, Cole Palmer, but he's another one that wanted to leave. If you put down the money, naturally things will happen, if I'm honest with you. So yeah, I hear it. Have I muted myself? What happened there? Testing, 1, 2, 3. I think you lot can hear me again. I'm not over the Brighton game either, but the reality is, bro, it's been and gone now. Like, there's nothing we could do. I'm not over it because I feel in life you have to control the controllables. You have to control what you can control. And I think, you know, if I look at it very naively, we had chances in either half to dead the game, still be talking about the referee and all of that jazz, but crucially have the 3 points. Of course, the referee adds a sour taste, dropping 2 points in the backdrop of trying to fight for a Premier League title and, you know, probably wanting an assurance policy ahead of a North London derby, City, and so on and so forth. It's a packed month for us, man, really. It's about going against the red cartel. I hear it. Naturally, they might want to do that. But, you know, if you were to make, everybody's going to deal with everyone. If you make an offer for Newcastle player that they can't refuse, the same goes for Villa, the same goes for City, then I think they'll do business. And likewise with us, we're in a day and age where, you know, you won't see Arsenal and Spurs. Well, I hope not. There's no one to buy over there. But you won't see Arsenal and Spurs do direct deals. You probably won't see Manchester United and Manchester City. But everybody's dealing with everyone. You know, United are buying players from Chelsea. Chelsea bought a couple players from City. We bought a couple of players from City. We keep bargain hunting at Chelsea. So, yeah, man, I think if you put down the money, great. But naturally, I'd imagine, I don't know for Villa, but if I was City and Newcastle and then you look at Arsenal, there's probably disagreements with the figureheads, not necessarily the clubs, the owners, because there's vested interest. Obviously, the Premier League, a couple of Premier League clubs, you want to stop what City are doing and Newcastle could potentially do, being backed by oil states, essentially. So there could be something in that. There really could be something in that. But I don't know, man. It's a good question and one that, you know, I can't answer really and truly. Should we see what's in the news for us? Obviously, Mikel Arteta is giving his pre-press conference ahead of the Spurs game on his new contract. The man said, I'm really happy, really excited. I think it shows the alignment between the club and myself and the coaching staff that we're on this journey together and we're enjoying working together. Now we have much higher ambitions and we want to fulfill them. So that's the way that I look at it. As I said, I'm really pleased and grateful as well. on not wanting to be anywhere else. He said, I couldn't think of a better place to develop my career as a player, to experience an amazing footballing club with the people that I met and the experiences that I had. Now, as a manager, that is something far beyond and better than whatever I dreamed about, probably. He then went on to say what I think we really, really and truly care about. Big up Arteta for the new deal, but we want to hear about injuries and whatnot. And he's going to be a bit of, before I carry on, he's going to be a bit evasive. Now, some of he could be telling the truth. It could be little white lies. It could be gamesmanship, because obviously Postecoglou is planning for all eventualities, especially now with the injuries. But do you really want to give much away? Because it's a bit of an open book. You know, you're not seeing Declan Rice. You know that Odegaard is probably unlikely to play. And there's several other examples in that. But on Odegaard, he said, we need some more tests. So let's see what happens in the next day or so, this afternoon probably, and see what happens, what the extent of the injury is and how quickly we can get him back. He's super positive about everything. We know Martin, he wants to be there every single day, but we have to wait and see, which is music to my ears, that the man is not feeling sorry for himself. He's remaining upbeat. He's continuing to go on and whatnot. At the same time, though, if I take those words for what they actually mean, for me, because we saw him on crutches, we saw him have to be helped off the pitch, we saw him kind of cry and be in agony. When you hear we need to do more tests, that concerns me a bit, because it means you know, obviously with bruising or an ankle injury, every day that passes, there's a new development. So that could mean we don't really know the true status of Martin Odegaard. You'd imagine he'd had a scan or 2 or 3 by now as well. So it's a bit of an intriguing one. On whether Martin is hopeful that it isn't as bad as feared, I'll leave that to the doctor, but he's willing. There's no question about that. He wants to be present every game, and obviously in a big game like this one, but we need to make sure that we know, first of all, how good he can be or not. Best case scenario is that, you know, he misses a couple of weeks, or even the best of the best case scenario, in my opinion, would probably be he's able to play some part. Obviously, he's not going to be 100%, and he's going to need the strongest painkilling injection or painkillers that are available to him, really and truly. So, yeah, on not ruling him out of the derby, players with 48 hours to go are always available, but let's see what happens. So, I think he's basically said it there, and that Odegaard's not going to be a thing. It could be little white lies, as Ahmed is saying here, to kind of confuse Postecoglou, but I will be happily surprised if I see Odegaard in the North London derby. I think it could be described as improbable, and I don't think anyone should get their hopes up, if I'm brutally honest. On Mikel Merino's injury, it's better. It's a slow process because it's a bone and it takes a while to heal. He's progressing well and he's already doing some stuff. He's working extremely hard, and we're using this time to make sure that he understands a lot of things that he has a lot of questions about. And when he's back, he's ready to go and impact the team, which is great. But yeah, man, I'm off sick. That's why I've been on all the shows this week. In the circle, appreciate your support, whether you're at work or you're at home. It's terrible news to hear you're sick. Hopefully, you know, you're back to full fitness and full health sooner rather than later. And you're back to, you know, doing the black cab stuff all around London. Seems like there's something in the air, because not only Arsenal footballers getting injured, we've got the fans ruled out of stuff as well, man. It's crazy. Now, Odegaard, I think, while it's not happy, everybody accepted he's probably not going to play against Spurs. Mikel Merino, we accepted a long time ago that you're not available against Spurs. It's now where you start to get into the Calafiori's, the Gabriel Jesus's, you know, obviously Raheem Sterling's been training, but at this point, he's not kicked a ball. So you wonder the overall fitness of our team. You've got players out, you know, assuming Gabriel Jesus and Sterling start, how fit are they? Are they able to play 90 minutes? Do we have a strong enough bench? Obviously, you look at someone like Saka, he's played at significant minutes for England. Thomas Partey, you know, is, I think, got 180 minutes for Ghana during the international break. And it is crazy. I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but if you told me at the start of the season that we'd be facing what we're facing right now, and Thomas Partey would be the fittest of our players, much less going off to Ghana and coming back in one piece, you know, it'd be interesting. I think it's interesting as well because, again, we're going to read all this stuff, but, you know, he's spoken about Odegaard, he's spoken about his namesake Mikel, obviously Mikel Merino, you know, Calafiori, Gabriel Jesus. What happened to Tomiyasu? Like, have we forgot about him? Is he, you know, him and Tierney, they got memberships in our medical department. So we'll have to see. And whether Merino will be back before the international break, the next one, obviously, we don't know. Honestly, it's very difficult to understand the healing of the bone. I think at the moment he doesn't have a lot of symptoms, so you can speed it up very quickly because he hasn't lost anything else, but we have to wait and see. On Gabriel Jesus, Gabby was out there. He's got another session tomorrow, and if everything goes well, he'll be ready to be selected in this squad, which is great news for us. So currently at this moment in time, Gabriel Jesus is the one that it seems like has had the most clarity over his fitness. Moreno, he's kind of been a bit upbeat beyond the obvious. Odegaard, he's been a bit evasive. On Calafiori, it's another one that we have to wait another day or so. And Calafiori was the one we was all talking about before the Odegaard stuff. Somebody said thoughts on Perez's waffle. I don't want to spoil it, but where is it? I've got you covered. Oh yeah, bang on the money. I think when is this? Tomorrow. My thoughts are coming out with that. If I speak, I'm in trouble, and it's disappointing. Like, I'm 29. Robert Perez was one of my childhood heroes, man. When you get past the Vieiras, the Bergkamps, the Adams, the Henrys. So, yeah, man. But I did offer my thoughts. So, yeah, make sure your notification bells are on. In fact, there should be 2 Spurs previews with George. Big him up. Obviously, tapping Tobes. There's that. And there should be something else, really. And there's always content, people. So, yeah, smash the like button, subscribe, and all of those good things. On Raheem Sterling, and if he could be involved against Spurs, he looks great. First of all, because he's got a big smile on his face, a lot of energy. He's at it and wants to prove a point. When someone has got that in their belly, boy, you sense it straight away. Obviously, I don't need to discover anything about his quality and what he can bring to the team. Obviously, I'm not going to waste time speaking about this. Really, our away shirt, it is what it is. We have to do what we need to do there. On Raheem Sterling, he said, I see his hunger. He's a player who wants to play every minute of every game. And when that's not the case, he's not happy. He loves football. It's what he likes doing every single day. And I see that his commitment, the level of energy that he's bringing to the team, and the quality is a big boost. You can feel that in the players as well. When he walks through the door, we are better with him. He's going to make us better by God's grace. He has his ability, and the credit to that is his and the players that he's got around him. You need that when you're one of the front players. Certainly, he's got that intuition, that will, and the ability to do that. I'm sure he's going to impact the team when speaking about goal scoring. On how much the club has evolved in Mikel's time here, it's a dramatically different club in many senses. And at this point, I'm not going to lie, big up the club and the movements we're doing, and we're not a joke anymore. Yeah, people can say we bottled leagues, we still ain't won nothing, celebrating second, which I'm not doing. All of that jazz. We're competitive again, all of that stuff. I must admit though, as much as I love the manager, I love you tactically, the tough decisions you've made, the energy you come with, the energy you brought about the place, how everybody's galvanized in every fragment. You hear about the light bulb stuff, bringing in the dog. The Ivan Toney's tweet a few years ago, people mocked him, but the atmosphere at Anfield where he was doing what he's doing in the All or Nothing doc, which must have helped our away form, God forbid. But off topic, we still ain't lost an away game this calendar year. Hopefully that doesn't change on Sunday. And obviously we know about the pickpocket stuff, right? I must admit, I hear that. All of that's great. But I just want to win trophies now. That's great. Like now the conversation has shifted from the rebuild thing. Like we've got to a certain level. Can we get things over the line? Then it does feel a bit like a cult at times, if I'm honest. I do think there's a lack of balance with Arsenal fans. I feel there's some that, are positive, toxic, and I just think there's some that's negative, and it becomes a bit of a cult-like following. And for me, I don't think you can have it both ways. Context should always apply, but you can't big up the club and the players and the manager and then not ask fair questions if things go left or if we're not adequately equipped for stuff, which you look at the depth of our team. What did Perez say? Long and short of it, he basically said Saka lacks consistency and whatnot. And again, some of these things are not necessarily wrong. But when you're talking about bloody Jeremy Doku, boy, it goes out the window. And I mean that in a respectful way. No disrespect to Jeremy Doku. I think he's a quality player. If Jeremy Doku had what he's got at this moment in time with Saka's decision-making and consistency, he'd probably be one of the, if not the best wingers in the world. Unfortunately, he doesn't. And I'd have Doku at Arsenal, man. So, yeah, big up the gaffer. He said, in the way that I think we all wanted to, because we all wanted a very different club. We're in the right direction. We've had some huge steps, and we have a lot still to make. You sense that hunger from the ownership to the board to all of the players and staff here. And this is the aim and the objective. On if there's another club or country we would have left for, not at this moment in time, but it's naive to expect that, Arteta wouldn't be tempted by certain other projects as well. No, this is the emotional attachment that I have and that my family have, my kids have, the experience that I have, and the involvement with the people. It's too strong. Yeah, but you turned down the chance to join me, and I'm not criticizing Arteta, but he's a calculated man. You turned down the chance to join Arsene Wenger's coaching staff to go to City. You turned down the Arsenal job at the first time around of asking when Emery got it. So I'm not criticizing you, but these buzzwords, like, yes, you've got an emotional attachment. You had an emotional attachment to Everton that did not stop you leaving and joining us mid-season. Fair enough, though, but I like it. on if Ethan Nwaneri could be involved against Spurs. We have to adapt to the change in the team throughout the season. We're going to have these kind of situations. It's happened very early since the second game, because when you look at the bench that we had against Brighton, it's very different to the one that we probably would have expected. It's the situation that we have. We have to face it, use the opportunities. Big up Lewis Kelly and young Ethan. I hope they get minutes in some capacity. The young kids have given us a lot of hope and right reasons as to count on them, and we need to do that for sure. On his best memories in the North London derby, probably afterwards, especially when you win at home and you celebrate with your supporters, you know how much it means. It's something special, and we have so many huge Arsenal supporters since the day that they were born looking at our staff. We have some good examples around the first team as well. They've come in after the game and you can see the emotion and what it means for them. It's a privilege to have the power to contribute to making someone really happy, which is great, man. He should have hired the pickpocket for Zinni and Partey, because they always make bonehead decisions. I would love to know which players actually got there, because they weren't all of them, but which ones had their belongings taken. Self-awareness has got to be key. And I mean, I like those things, as I said, for Mikel Arteta is genius, and naturally in a place of work, or if you go to school, like if Arteta's the teacher and they're all the pupils, and you don't know what your teacher is going to do, it makes learning fun. But as I said, I love all of that. All of that stuff's great. You know, you can see beyond the obvious what we've seen or what we've been exposed to, what he's done at Arsenal at the moment, what you hear about what he was doing at City, that's great. But trophies now, you know, because Arteta could leave. If God forbid, if Arteta left today, I would applaud you. You've done your thing. You've rebuilt. I think the man that comes in after you, they might be able to do something. You know, it's definitely a lot healthier than when you was at the club, but it's a trophies thing now, man. Like trophies now, stuff to etch us in history, because, you know, 20 years from now, for example, right? It's not that we're going to forget all the tough things Arteta's done, but all that's really going to matter is 2020, you won the FA Cup. You know, Eric Ten Hag's been absolutely atrocious for Manchester United. 20 years from now, you won the FA and the League Cup. That's all that really matters in life at times, you know. So yeah, big up Arteta for that. Obviously, he's going to admire Postecoglou. We're not going to go over that. On Raheem Sterling's evolution since his time at City, I mean, City was his best period. Obviously, in his personal life, a lot of things have changed since we were together. The first call I had with him, I knew straight away after 10 seconds we had to bring him because he really wanted it. And that was my only question mark. What stage is he at in his career? I knew after 10 seconds, bring him here. On if Mikel can build a legacy at Arsenal like Arsene Wenger and other successful managers, why not? You don't think you'll ever be, in my head, higher regards than Wenger. But, you know, even if Arteta won the Champions League this year, like Wenger is still ahead of him in anything. Hopefully, yes, but you're talking about the best in the history of the club, certainly in this country. My aim and motivation is to be the best version of myself, the best coach in the world ever for Arsenal, what the club needs and what those players need, what we need as a team to keep developing and achieve what we want. That's the only objective. On his message to Arsenal fans, obviously he said thank yous, expressed gratitude and things. On how Kai has adapted his role in the team, he's been great. Obviously, it was a journey until that point that we navigated together, but no one doubted the quality that he can bring. The success came because of his character, his personality, and how he approaches every single game. Still, every situation, facing it and going for it, it's a joy to have him. Yeah. Even if Mikel Arteta done the treble for us this season, you'd still be ahead. You're never going to do what Arsene Wenger did. Of course, there's a lot of emotional attachment. You're never going to do it. You're never going to do it. You pay, bro, big man. I'm not being funny. The players that indirectly, the young players that have come through this system, even those that were sold in the summer, much less Bukayo Saka, much less London Coley, as well as our training ground, our damn stadium. You know, the way Wenger came into this league, there is no Pep Guardiola, there's no Mikel Arteta, there's no Pep Guardiola, there's no Jurgen Klopp, there's no Conte, there's no Jose, there's none of these guys without Arsene Wenger, the first foreign manager to come and cause problems and revolutionize the game. No disrespect to Mikel Arteta, but you'll never do that. You'll be a legend and pick you up, really, but you'll never, for me anyways, you'll never be higher than, in my estimations, than Arsene Wenger, no matter what you do. Even if within these 4 years, okay, maybe if in this 4-year contract he signed, if he did the treble 3-4 times over, maybe I'm capping a bit, but still, no, man, no. But that don't mean you can't have your own stuff, really and truly. So yeah, big up Kai Havertz for that. On the size of the squad that we have, oh yes, you look, no, this is my thing, really, because numerous times you said in your press conferences, Mikel Arteta, we've got one of the smallest squads in the league last year. Has much changed? So yeah, man, it can be bigger, yes, but we have certain limitations that we know about. Oh, yeah. We have to do certain things, certain transactions, and certain players have been with us for a long time and they needed a new challenge in their career. We've signed a few players. It's been a bit different to the previous years, but I'm really happy with the quality of the squad. There's certain things that we cannot control. What happened in the last 2 weeks is extremely unlucky. We have to face it, but hopefully during the season, it will be very different. I hope so too. On how to approach a challenging period of the season, day by day. If we look at where we're going to be at the end of May, tomorrow's game that we have to play in the level and the challenges ahead, we cannot think like this. We're going to run out of oxygen. I want to have the energy, the enthusiasm for the next day, the next game, and prepare that in the best possible way. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go to Spurs with unbelievable energy and believe that we're going to go there to be ourselves and try to win the game. No, I like to hear that. On the Tottenham and City games towards the end of the season, I think I always have faith. I know Andrew Bitt and his team play to try to win the game. They have some big, huge chances, and any other day it would have been very different. There's no question about that at all. On Spurs fans wanting them to lose the game and the rivalry between the teams, I mean, naturally, any Spurs fan that would want to not beat Arsenal would be, I'd have to question them. We all know Mikel Arteta has signed a new deal. Respectfully, I mean, you got to let it go, if I'm honest. Extremely unlucky having a thin squad and acting like injuries don't happen is stupid. I hear you, but I think we'd have to listen to how Mikel Arteta said that, and I think evidently the man's frustrated. But what I will say is, between these two here, we haven't addressed that. We still got a lack of depth. Now, I'm not going to moan too much about it because I am definitely with you lot. And as I said, in the circle as well with his comments regarding that. But at the same time, it is what it is now. Like, we know what they should have done, what they did or didn't do. This is what we've got now. This is how we need to move. And hopefully we can do something. And that's for tomorrow, if I'm brutally honest. Big up Nathan Butler, Oladeji as well. He won Premier League 2 Player of the Month, people, the 21-year-old. Him and Kyle Edwards. Big up, happy belated to Kyle Edwards, actually, turned 21. If I was them in January, maybe in the summer, but in January, I'm pushing to leave the club purely because 21 years of age, you don't want to be playing academy football. I mean, injuries are unlucky, man. But at the same time, bro, it's part and parcel of the business. It's like a chef cutting their hand. It's like being a police officer. I know could never, but it's like being a police officer and not expecting to hear some sort of abuse thrown your way. It's part and parcel. Mikel Arteta and Edu, since they've signed for this football club, they can see how vital injuries affect stuff. We look at the year that Rob Holding had to get blooded in. Last season, we had a clear run, but we didn't have the majority of our key players. We've said we've got the smallest squad. We've been playing with fire, and at the moment, I wouldn't quite say we've been burnt, but we're very close. Like, we're feeling the flames. Obviously, Odegaard's going to be a massive miss for the North London derby. He was third for goals and assists since August 2023. These stats. He was second for shots, first for chances created, first for passes into the box, first for possession won in the final third. So I don't think you can replace Odegaard for quality, but what you can do is find a way around it, people. So we're going to have to see what happens in that regards. This is all, I'm going to save all of that for our watch along. I mean, that was, you could see I was preparing stuff in relation to Doku and Bukayo Saka, people. So you can air all of that. But yeah, you look at the next 7 games, in 21 days. Sunday, we've got Spurs. A couple of days later, we travel to Atalanta. Then we travel to City. And these are 3 away games. The Emirates is going to be a lonely place. 25th of September, obviously playing against Bolton. 28th, you've got Leicester. You'd imagine, if we have the squad to do it, you'd imagine there'll be extreme rotations. You'd imagine there's a big chance Lewis Skelly, Ethan could all start that game. Raya's going to have to start that game. I don't imagine young Tommy Setford's going to play. Neto's obviously cup-tied. Leicester, full strength squad required. Regardless of if Jamie Vardy's old or not, he could still spoil our day. And October isn't going to be easy. And, hopefully we can give Ramsdale a baptism of fire, if I'm honest with you. Speaking of Aaron Ramsdale, he spoke about his exit, people. Aaron Ramsdale says he holds no bitterness towards Arsenal following his summer switch to Southampton, people. Specifically, the ex-number 1 said, no, I've been around football long enough that the manager's decision is the manager's decision. I tried my best to change his mind and force my way back in. His mind was set, and at the same time, David had a great season. You can have all the upset or qualms about it being taken out, but when someone else is delivering, you've just got to take it on the chin. It's tough, but I found a new home and I'm looking forward to playing again. You move on. There's no bad blood. You've got to restart your career again. Hopefully you don't get 3 relegations on your CV. It was a really difficult season, but my character and personality, I started the game by enjoying it. And when it gets taken away, it's tough. Fair enough. Apparently he says he remains in contact with Arteta about what. That's why, unfortunately, you have to move on, but I'm happy about where I am now. What has he said here? When speaking about Arteta, yeah, I only spoke to him last week. What he did for me in my time at Arsenal, I can only thank him for, and he thanked me for my contribution as well. As a football club, getting back into the Champions League and pushing for a trophy, and ultimately, as managers do, they often make decisions that upset people. He made that decision, but we still speak. I'm looking forward to getting some games under my belt here. We play them in a few weeks' time, which will be a nice return. Fair enough, people. Fair enough. So yeah, man, big up Aaron Ramsdale for that one, man. But yeah, time moves on. Apparently, Arsenal and Newcastle are plotting a big money move for Leroy Sané. I mean, he's got a year left on his contract, so you probably do have to take the rumours that are being said with a pinch of salt, people. Arsenal and Newcastle are keeping tabs on Sané's situation at Bayern Munich after noticing a potential opportunity to pounce, thanks to his contract being due to expire next summer, according to Give Me Sports sources. We'll have to see, really. I mean, I wouldn't be against Sané, but I don't really believe it because A, it's not really a long-term addition. B, his contract's got a year left at Bayern Munich. So we'll have to see. Apparently, we've cut more than 9 million from our annual wage bill, people, after several high-profile people moved on. So again, we got positive net spend. You've got more money where the wage bill's concerned. The health of the club is better. Of course, you want to bring people in. Big respect to Aaron, man. I would love to see Jesus. Would you consider the players we sold deadwood? For one way or another, because who really was playing like that? Like Eddie and Ketty have probably played a lot more significantly than a lot of people, and I hate the word deadwood because you need a squad, but at the same time, Eddie, you could consider him deadwood. Kai Havertz, who found himself playing up front, was playing in midfields ahead of you. Jesus will be ahead of you. You'd reckon Trossard will play significantly ahead of him. There's earmark. Well, we tried to bring in another striker, so Eddie deadwood. Kills me to say it, but Smith Rowe deadwood, Fabio Vieira deadwood, you know, the Lokongas to the Vareses, all of these guys, 100%. The only one that kind of was deadwood and didn't leave is obviously Mr. Tierney. And it is very reactionary, but you would have loved to have had El Nene on the bench, at least for this. They were just not good enough or reliable. I think do you know what? I think it's a case of two things. I think the club wanted to raise money, but I think the club would have been more than happy for Smith Rowe to stay. I think the club would have been happy for Fabio Vieira. I think they recognize he needs to go and get football, but I reckon Fabio pushed for that. I don't think they would have moved on Eddie as aggressively as us fans as well, if I'm completely honest, especially after not getting Sesko. But there you have it. Nelson, a bit part player, not going to play unless we've got a depleted squad, so it don't really make sense. We've gone over Sane already. I'm not quite sure what this Graham Souness thing is, and it doesn't really matter. Romano said the player Arsenal really wanted in the number 9 position was Benjamin Sesko. He was considered as the top priority. They were prepared to pay the release clause, but the player decided to stay at Leipzig. 1 second, people, because I'm trying to read to you, lot, and these kids, like they do, they're playing outside. Oh! Let me close this window, man. They're putting me off. Why aren't kids ever doing chores or doing homework? It's Friday. They should be doing weekend homework or something. But yeah. For me, I don't really care about the striker stuff at this moment in time. I would love Isak. If Sesko was the guy, but it's irrelevant until January at least. So you'd imagine Sesko and Isak will not be on the move in January unless you kind of quote unquote overpay. Romano said, I expect Arsenal to reassess the possibility of signing a striker next summer. I think it's going to be one of the big targets for Arsenal. I mean, we heard that going into the window. Apparently, Arsenal and Chelsea will keep red hot striker Victor Gyökeres on their shortlist for next summer's transfer window, says Football Insider. We all know he's picked up where he left off last season and he keeps bagging. We all know he has an £84 million release clause in his contract. And you'd imagine, you know, Sporting having the process of giving him a new deal or preparing for life without him, people. And you look at it, man. I mean, in the last year, 54 goals in 59 games. It's crazy. I mean, you're up there with Mbappe, Haaland, and Kane. It's crazy. And, you know, what I'd give to have that in the Arsenal squad. The Sporting president said, Gyökeres, I've seen inferior players being transferred above 100 million euros, big players below 100 million euros. Victor is happy here. During the market, there was not a day without news saying that Victor Gyökeres was leaving, which ultimately the noise and what actually happens is where it is. You're on this Gyökeres thing. I am. You know what? For me, Isak's the first one. I like Isak. I think Sesko ties in, but in no order. Isak would be my first target, 100%. Gyökeres, I think he's an Arsenal striker. Everything that Arteta wants, I think he's got that. The only clouds are you going to be able to do it in the Prem? Sesko, I think that's more of a long-term solution kind of thing. And I like Sesko anyways. Dem 3 would be there. I've always said I wouldn't be against signing Osimhen, but I think he's incredibly, and you'll have heard me say this before, I think he's incredibly overrated by a lot of fans, including myself. Really, you look at his durability. How many times has he played over 20 games in a season? How many times has he actually got a healthy goal scoring return for the money that he's going to want, his agent's going to want, and Napoli's going to want? Is where it is. We've been warned not to expect a discount where Gyökeres is concerned as well, people. Apparently, Ruben Amorim told Arteta, though, that the club still expects the full amount in the player's deal. The first time I spoke as sporting coach, I said that I never believed they would pay that much for me. Fair enough. He must feel the same. It's a very high clause. Gyökeres is a great player, and I think he's worth 100 million. I mean, your manager's not going to say anything else, is he? That's the price he has, and we have to stick by it. Whoever wants to sign him will have to pay 100 million. Fair enough, really and truly. What else have we got? Arsenal will continue to be on red alert with reports emerging that one of their top targets of the summer has already made the decision to leave the club next year. Who? According to Spanish outlet El Nacional, Williams has left Bilbao worried over his future, with the winger reportedly having communicated to those close to him that this will be his last season wearing the red and white stripes of the club. Be playing in Europe. I mean, I would love him, but you'd imagine Barcelona are going to get involved again. You'd imagine we'd love it. Who wouldn't want Nico Williams, man? But I think everybody's just waiting to see what Barcelona's doing. Apparently, his agent said the kid decided to stay at Athletic for one more year. Our job is to work for him and give him advice, but we can't put a gun to his head and force him to leave. There you have it, really and truly. That seems to be the news at this current moment in time, people. In terms of other content to come from myself as well, people, quick shameless plug, of course, is that should be out tomorrow. You lot keep asking about Perez's thoughts. I've offered mine. In light of the North London derby later today, my video with tapping toes is coming. So make sure you're there for that. I did do another video, better yet, of the North London derby with my guy George. So yeah, I've been a bit welcoming to these Spurs fans. Tomorrow we will all be watching Southampton versus Man United together, folks. And then also, obviously, you got the big one on Sunday, don't you, people? Where it's Arsenal against Spurs. So again, if your notification bells are not on, I'm not sure what you're doing. What have you said here? Surely that means big money being spent on quality rather than quantity next summer. You'd imagine that's the case, but it's a double-edged sword. Naturally, if we were to wake up tomorrow and you've signed Nico Williams, you've signed Sesko, you've signed, I don't know, a right winger that's better than Saka for this hypothetical, naturally, the level of the squad is going to be rise because some of these guys are going to be on the bench and indirectly there's more depth. I do think we only need a couple of quality additions. If you could get that striker, that winger, for me, a couple of centre midfielders, Owen to Partey and Jorginho leaving, why not? But the squad, the depth, we listened to Mikel Arteta's comments, or I read it to you lot. He's clearly not happy with the size of the squad. So surely it should mean quality rather than quantity. But slightly, we need both. Shout yourself, Jamie, as well, man. So yeah, man, I would love Sesko because I think Sesko, I don't agree with this rhetoric of don't buy a striker because you've got Kai Havertz. That's silly. Just say there was a right winger better than Saka on the market, wants to sign for our football club, puts up Saka numbers or more or better. Why would you not want to sign him? This is a football club. This ain't a play crest. And you know, if Kai Havertz continues his form, he's got nothing to worry about. But I think Sesko would have come in. I don't think he would have immediately taken Kai Havertz's spot. Obviously, would have eased the burden, and he would have been someone that would have got goals and ultimately been a different option, really. And if we had Sesko for a game like the North London derby, Sesko goes up front. Kai Havertz, owing to the injuries we're facing at this moment, probably goes into midfield for that game purely. So it is what it is in that regards, man. It really is. But we're just going to have to get on with it, man. We've got what we've got. We don't have what we don't have. And we just need to keep it moving in that regards, man. What we thinking, DG, is it Ethan Nonwary in the North London derby? Toby, it's a difficult one, Toby, because on one hand, I do think it is time. I think, you know, baptism of fire. At the end of the day, your age is irrelevant because if you're in the squad, you're there because they believe in your quality. We don't have many options. He could be something that Postecoglou was least expecting. I think with young players, they can be positively naive and that obviously he's not an idiot. It's his first league start. He knows it's a big game. He knows the backdrop that we're going into this game with, but he could just be so gassed like, rah, everything I've been working for, I'm getting my Arsenal start. I'm here now. I've arrived, quote unquote. And that could see him excel really, kind of what we've seen in previous years. But then I also feel it's a big ask because we've already got a fragmented team where you're going to have to give Ethan the scope to make mistakes. He's a young guy. It's going to be a physical game. Could he be someone that comes off the bench? A part of me wants to start him though. Because, I mean, if we assume that we had these injury issues and we had Fabio Vieira and obviously Ethan, I'd rather give the minutes to Ethan. Now, clearly Fabio's more experienced. He's ahead. But I think from what I see of preseason, it seems like Ethan is going to do a bit more, if I'm honest. So, yeah, it is in the storyline. And what better way to make yourself a legend than to bag, man? There are some rumors saying Ethan could start and he's a genuine option because, A, we ain't got much. And 2, like, Arteta has to be thinking, like, do I play Ethan? Do I go with Partey, Jorginho and Havertz? Do I put Timber in midfield? Do I go to a back three? Oh, no, man. It is what it is. Sesko was the target precisely because he'd be okay on the bench, so not giving Arteta a headache for Havertz. Sign a striker that benches Kai and his value plummets. It's true. There's some truth in that. But I was reading an Athletic article and they brought up an interesting option. Saka moved into the middle. He's played there for Arteta at points before, and Sterling on the right-hand side. It is true. He has played there. I'm sure he's even played there against City. No, you played right wing back against City or something like that at a point. I'm sure during the lockdown period he played centre mid and Saka would do his own thing, and it could be something to think about. But for me, Saka's got to stay on that right hand side, man. You got to get at their left back. Pardon me, you've got to ask questions. You really do, and that could be a way to get Sterling in. I'm not a fan of Sterling on the right, I must admit. I see him subbing in and starting versus Atalanta. Atalanta, he's got a big chance. And also, you look at someone like Lewis Skelly. Like, all the talk is about Ethan because, yeah, for me, he's the one. Like, out of him and Lewis Skelly at this moment, you think he's slightly more ahead. But Lewis Skelly, as well as playing inverted left back, he can play centre mid. There's a big chance. And you can imagine against Atalanta, they might be involved in some capacity. Dare I say, within the next 2 games, Ethan could get a start. Even if we hold an L versus Spurs, I fully expect us to draw or win against City and win at Atalanta. Out of the 3 games, I'm the most confident for the Spurs game, if I'm honest with you, because our depleted squad or not, it is Spurs. I still think there's enough out there to get a result. Maybe not be to the standard we'd like, maybe not be a walk in the park, but I think there's something there. Had it have been, and I don't think our fortunes on the injury front will change too much when we play City. Had we been playing City on Sunday with everything we've been talking about all week, I'd be thinking, right, you know what? I'm a bit nervous. I'm kind of scared now. This is shook. I'm more shook of Atalanta. That's away from, obviously, naturally, Champions League. You want to start in the best possible way. It's in our best interest to win as many games as quickly as possible in that Champions League so that, A, we can rotate players. 2, we confirm qualification, from anything from 1st to 8th place. We all know if you finish below that, there's an extra game. The Champions League has changed because normally it's done before Christmas. January, you're still going to have Champions League off the backdrop of the congested Premier League schedule. We all know the FA Cup starts. I don't know how it would work, but the FA Cup comes into play at early 2025. There'll be a League Cup game or 2, dependent on how far we go in that. So, yeah, man, I'm a lot more optimistic about Spurs away than the trip to Italy because you're playing away from home, Champions League. Gasperini and Atalanta is not a walk in the park. Ironically, a player that a lot of us wouldn't have minded at the Emirates. You've got Lookman there. It will be an interesting game. And I'm no physio, I'm no manager, but then, everyone can see the squad is struggling in terms of numbers. And then you start factoring in, 1 minute, it's not a far journey, but we're going from wherever the team hotel is going to be, short trip in North London to Tottenham. Then we're getting on a plane going to Italy. Then we're going to Manchester City. This time next week, we'll be focusing on City. Obviously, top level performance, Premier League football in general. It takes about 48 hours to recover. So it's a big test on the legs of everybody. In fact, not even just physically, mentally as well. But this is where we wanted to be, man. This is what we've got to do. Saka played central for England. I've always thought Saka could be an Eden Hazard cloning the cam. He would terrorize centre-backs and create tons. Strong, mobile, and fearless. Sadly, no one will try it. Not as quite majestic. But, I mean, he's an intelligent lad. His short-range passing is good. You could get that driving from midfield. I'm just wary that naturally we don't know who's going to be in defence, even though that will probably be closest to our strongest midfield. We haven't got our strongest midfield anyways. So you might as well find a way of planning that and then have Saka. Like, we're going to kill the relationship of Benjamin White and Saka. I think you need to keep certain relationships. But if Saka plays in midfield, I'm not against it. I'm genuinely not against it, really. And that's something that we haven't probably considered, and it's something that the manager has to, man. So there could be something in that. I can't afford to drop points in the Prem. We can drop points to Atalanta to rotate. Have we even got enough players to rotate, bro? Like, have we even got enough players to rotate? And how far does the rotation against Atalanta go? Because I'll be real, I don't really want that much rotation. Maybe 1 or 2 changes if luxury affords it. But like this, I'm not being funny. Half of you lot played or have played in teams where you've got 2 games a week, 3 games in 10 days. The majority of you were here doing that last season, and it's still Champions League. And I agree that you could take the hit in the Atalanta game, but playing devil's advocate, what gives us the right to think we can do that in the champs? Because essentially be playing catch up. And then who would be rested? You know, I'm sure Calafiori, you know, I'm kind of positive on Calafiori's fitness. I'm sure he wants to be fit, play in his country, Italy and whatnot. I don't want my back 5 to have the day off. You know, Raya, White, Saliba, Gabriel. I'd love to see Tomiyasu back sooner rather than later. But between Tomiyasu, Timber, Calafiori, you lot need to be playing in these next 2 games. Midfield, it's a big arcs on the Thomas Partey's and Jorginho's of this world, man. So, yeah. I wasn't talking about the North London derby. My bad, bro. Saka has all the attributes to be far more effective in the middle than stuck on the wing frequently with 2 defenders on him getting kicked. Shout out to you, DG. Who would you say is more intelligent on the pitch? I mean, who can retain information more, Saka or Havertz? I think it's even, you know. I think that's one of the most important things that goes without saying when speaking about Saka is coachability. You can tell he listens and them kind of things there. And there's a simple but effectiveness to the way Saka plays. But, you know, whatever people say about Kai Havertz, you don't play for Leverkusen, be at Chelsea, be currently at Arsenal, whether you rate him or not, the way Thomas Tuchel, Julian Nagelsmann, the national team manager, Mikel Arteta, the way they speak about him. I think Havertz is a manager's dream in that you can give him, it's not going to be pretty. I don't think he's the most exciting footballer in the world, but I do think he's someone that could be trusted and is quite intelligent in that regard. So I actually think it's quite even, you know. I'm going to say Saka, bias Halen, but I actually think it's even, you know. I actually do think it's even. Have we improved squad size, DG, or depth? No, not for me. I think we've improved the quality of the side. Like, you know, I think when and if, I hate to get into this kind of language, but when and if the players that are injured are fit, you've got some real quality and strength in depth in those regards. And you've ultimately got more players that Arteta trusts, but the depth was a big thing. And I'm not saying just buy players for the sake of it. Equally, you can't have a squad of 20 quality players unless you're City and keep them all happy. There needs to be various ranks. But yeah, I don't think the size of the squad was something for me. It'll be just sad to see and witness our fans meltdown if our season doesn't go to plan. You know how the script is, my guy. One love for the super chat. Big up DG, the philosophers. Big up yourself for this support, man. Appreciate that. Convince Matt Dolman parents to make him skip year 10 and play Prem football instead. Oh, yeah, I got high hopes for that guy, you know. I got high hopes for that guy. Very high hopes for Lewis Skelly, him, and Ethan, if I'm honest with you. Really, really high hopes, man. But I hope it works. Havertz does things that the stats don't show, and he looks very awkward. Yeah, Havertz is not enjoyable to watch. I love Havertz, but I genuinely think you're a liar if you say you enjoy watching him play football. It's not what you would call enjoyable, but he does have that ability. What I like about him, he is versatile, and then we've spoken about the manager's dream thing. I think he's someone you can trust. Like, I think he's someone that's down for the cause. That he will fight for his team. He's a fighter kind of thing. I like that, and I like him in the squad. My issue is for a team that got 91 goals. I still think you need a striker. I think the need for a striker is overstated, including myself. That counts for. But there's no way around it. You do. Why can't we? It's like we can never have the best of both worlds. If it's not an Isak level striker that's going to take Havertz's spot, could you have a Giroud kind of one that could come off the bench? I still think you need that. Me personally, I think a striker is important, but I think a versatile wide man is even more important to a degree. As I said in the summer, I can understand not getting a striker. It's disappointing, but you know, the market value for money, the ones you want might not be attainable. Great, fair enough. I would have loved an inside forward, man. Keep your expectations low and you won't be disappointed. Well, hopefully not if things go south. For me, I'm not quite at the stage. The only thing I expect of Arsenal is to be competitive, have fights in the shirt, and, you know, fight for the shirt, sorry. And whether we win, lose, or draw, let it be a thing where, okay, cool, we defended as well as we could. We did everything we could. They were just the better men. What could you say on the day? Like, that's it. But it feels like we shoot ourselves in the foot. I can't say I'm at the level where I expect a challenge for the title, but where I want this club to be, where I'm expecting to win league titles, I'm expecting to get to the latter stages of the champs. I'm not quite there yet. I don't 100% believe that we can win those trophies. It doesn't mean, listen, I don't want the players to have this rhetoric. It don't mean that I'm not with it all the way. But I would describe, for me, the Champions League is impossible. The Premier League is improbable. Either way, we're in it at this moment in time. fight for it. You never know. I think we need I don't think we've maximized everything internally. I think, you know, we need to be great, but you need certain variables, external factors, better yet, to fall into place. You need City to drop points. You need to probably avoid Real Madrid in the champs, and you need that luck, man. And to be fair with you, I won't call it luck because I think you earn your luck. You look at any team that's won something, you know, how many times during the Invincibles run did things look to go left? Look at Chelsea when they won the first champs, almost went out of that competition. Man United came back from the death when they won the treble and all of that stuff. You know, Real Madrid, the kings of coming back from the death. You can be better than them for 89 minutes. The minute Carlo does that, you see what time it is. But that's because they've maximized everything they could potentially can in that regards, man. So it's a difficult one. After our window, my expectations are very low. I only keep my expectations low in the transfer window because they've really proved us otherwise. I just call it for what I see it, man. I think, you know, the first year we was fighting for the title, it was just like, I didn't expect to, you know, the year that Rob Holding came in, and it weren't just on Holding. I'm just happy to be there, really and truly. Last year, I didn't expect to win the league. Last year, I just wanted us to prove people wrong that, you know, we might not win it, but it's not a fluke. A lot of people were flashing the pan. Naturally, you know, the top 6 record, the way we're moving away from home, everything we was kind of doing, everything was kind of plain sailing. The more the year went on, the harder it was not to. I never thought we'd win it, as you lot know, but the closer it got towards May, you're thinking, oh, you know what? You could do it, you know, you might, you know, I hope you can. This year, I'm just taking it as it comes, man, because I think there's reasons to be optimistic. We've improved year by year. If we don't get complacent, which I hope nobody at Arsenal is, because we can't afford to. We ain't won nothing. Keep doing what you're doing. But I'm not happy with the depth. I like the additions we made in the summer. I think we needed a bit more. And I just feel in general, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but, and it's even in these years and everything I've been saying, our success has never been like that. There's probably been bumps on the road and whatnot. But success is never linear. Like, you don't just go like this. Like, and it does feel like this is either where we might win the league or finish third, or like a little bit of a bump, if I'm honest with you, man. It's the hopium that kills. Football's about copium and hopium as well, fundamentally. So all I can say is, people, I'm here with you, lot. The highs and lows of the season, man. I'm here with you, lot. Like that is all I can say, man. I would, you know, the only if you were to press me and ask me, like, what do I like? If there was any competition we're in at this moment that I genuinely have expectations, would be the FA Cup, because I feel after we've won it, I'm not saying the manager's done this, but to me as a fan, it feels like we've disregarded and disrespected the FA Cup. It feels like, for me, that we could genuinely win that. Yeah, you don't know who you're going to play and all of that jazz, but you genuinely could. You know, we're the Real Madrid of the FA Cups, really. How much times have we beaten teams that we weren't expected to? And yeah, man, I've seen my team win numerous FA Cup. That's all I've really got to scream and shout about, man. Like, one of my happiest memories is probably being at Wembley for the back-to-back FA Cup wins, really. Or in, what was it, 05 when we won it on penalties as well. That's our trophy. The Prem, as I said, improbable. Champs, for me, impossible. So, yeah, man. I think fans are being unfair to Ethan. But again, if you're good enough, you're old enough. If the gaffer gets rid of Smith Rowe and Fabio to bank on him, then I want to see him play. And that's that, really and truly. You are right. But I do think in general, you know how fans can be silly at times. That because Ethan's a talented young player, very talented young player, you know, the only question marks is consistency, because you haven't been given an opportunity to do that, you know, physically, which ties into consistency, because let's just assume he goes, and bearing in mind he's 17 and developing as a man, let alone a footballer. Let's just assume he plays 90 minutes on Sunday, right, against Spurs. You've then got a quick turnaround, which, again, remember, it takes 48 hours to recover. You're on the plane to Italy, which is a different thing now. Cool, you've been exposed to Spurs. We don't know what Gasperini is going to do and whatnot. So it's a big ask. And I just think when you've got a player that, you know, you've seen it before, like biggest Haaland, Thailand, all of these tags, people think you're here and you've got the potential to be up there. People think that happens and you're up there. There's many trials and tribulations. Like, there should be a scenario where Ethan plays 10 games. You don't know what you're going to get from Ethan. Like, if I'm Mikel Arteta, I want him, if I was to play him for 10 games, I need to see minimum a medium, I think it's called in maths, of a 6. Because you'd imagine for Ethan, some weeks, going to be 10 out of 10, 20 out of 10, best player on the pitch. Other weeks, going to be like you're playing with 10 men. But this is the issue. The same people that are crying for Ethan to play against Spurs, play in the North London derby, start. The minute he looks like a 17-year-old, which, again, he needs to be given the scope for that. Look at even Kobe Mainoo in the recent Liverpool game. They're going to be the first to say he shouldn't have started him. My thing is, yeah, play Ethan, do all these things we're talking about. But we should have equipped ourselves well in the summer transfer market, which evidently is irrelevant to keep going back over that now. It's not irrelevant, better yet, it just can't be done. Real Madrid can't chat to us when it comes to FA Cups. They've never won it. Amen. My thought process would be to go for the Prem, then focus on the champs. Naturally, you have to bully your own league, and you do see that correlation. You know, obviously, Chelsea in my lifetime, they won the Prem before they won the champs, of course. You know, Liverpool, up until the Klopp era, they were getting to Champions League finals and weren't doing anything in the Prem, really and truly. When they lost, when they got to the Champions League final in like 07 or something, like, was it 07? Whichever one they played AC Milan, not the one they came from behind. That, obviously, they had that one in Istanbul a few years ago. They're probably the exception. But you look at Pep, you look at half of these things, it feels like you need to regulate your own place before you go and do whatever. And only, and again, like Real Madrid, the amount of times they've won the champs in the last recent years to the leagues, there is a bit of a difference in that regard. So you are right. You need to be able to bully your own league before you talk about champs. For me, though, not that we're in a position for either one. If you offered me the Champions League or the Premier League, I'm having that. In fact, if you offered me back-to-back 2 Premier League trophies in this year, next year, or just 1 champs, I'll be real. I know people, 2 is better than 1, but I'm having the champs. We're too big of a club not to have that. I'd give everything for Arsenal Football Club to have that. That's the one I want, really and truly. I would not be this balanced and this well thought on my platform. If we ever win the Champions League, oh my days. Regarding the squad size, we have ourselves to blame. It's all about proper planning, not ODing on hopium and copium. I love that. Arteta is very conservative and may not want to blood Ethan against Spurs. It'd be good for him to get a few minutes. And as DG stated, he can and should be eased into the team. He's also gonna don't get twisted, Ethan's gonna have to do this thing off his own back. But I do believe he's going to have to be coached by in the game as well. His more significant teammates are going to have to help him, really. And let's be real, that's a physical clash in the North London derby. We know it's one of those typical Premier League games, flying into tackles, etc. And he needs to be exposed to that, because as much as that's shaped off the North London derby, 9 times out of 10, we're going to rock up at places, and we know it. He can just ask his own teammate, Bukayo Saka. He's kicked every week, and he doesn't get much support from the referees. I gave up on Saka getting hope and protection from the refs when a few years ago, I'm sure we played Crystal Palace at the Emirates, and James McArthur absolutely volleyed the quad and calf of Saka, and nothing happened really. But it is where it is in that regards, man. We're judged differently, man. But we've only indirectly, the injuries we've only got ourselves to blame. If we miss our chances and make silly mistakes at the back and they target Partey, we'll lose. We need to be on point, which is always tricky after an international period. Like you said there, last sentence, we need to be on point. Don't matter how tricky it is. Like you said, the reality is they have to find a way to make it work or forget about it. Any injury updates? We went over it, but Calafiori's still awaiting tests. Odegaard's still awaiting tests. He said Moreno is progressing well in schedule, but is not going to be a thing. Gabriel Jesus is back in training. Maybe it's just Arteta didn't allude to it, or he wasn't asked, but there was nothing on Tomiyasu or Kieran Tierney, or if there's any mystery injury updates. And then you also wonder, like, obviously, Declan Rice, I don't really care about you getting minutes for England because you look like you need minutes because you don't look fully fit and you're not playing against Spurs. Saka's played a decent amount. Havertz has played a decent amount, 180 minutes for Partey. So you wonder, with all of these individual ingredients we've been speaking about, injuries, how coping with losses, potential changes in formation, certain players playing on international duty, certain players back in training but might not have 90 minutes in them. You do wonder the overall health of our squad and exactly what we're going to see on Sunday, man. But it is what it is, man. I don't know where Tomiyasu is. Tomiyasu is injured. I think Arteta spoke about him in the build-up to the Brighton game and said he's progressing well, but I could be wrong, but I ain't seen Tomiyasu in any training videos. So at this point, we see the players. When we see the players, I'm just focused on using what's in front of us. And that's how I'm at. Like, I'm hoping for a miracle, man. Tommy's gone missing. But even playing devil's advocate, like, I love Tomiyasu. But the man's always injured. We've been here before. And I actually think the reason Tomiyasu, when he signed that new deal, didn't get a contract as long as he could have is because of injuries. And I think the only reason I see Tomiyasu being phased out, whether he's a first name on the team sheet, a rotation option in years to come, is because of his availability. That's the step we need to get in where we've got durable players. Unfortunately, Tierney is the poster boy for injuries. God forbid that happens. But Partey typically is the poster boy for injuries. Gabriel Jesus loves an injury. Zinni and Reece Nelson and all these guys, they get a 1 week or 2 week layoff and nobody really bats an eyelid, but it all adds up. Now, I'm not going to kill a player for being injured. It happens. As I keep saying, footballers getting injured, it's like chefs cutting their hands. But when this has a knock-on effect, when we keep seeing this same movie, how many times are we going to watch the same movie and expecting a different ending? What do I know, though, people? And on that note, it's been a fantastic hour, but I'm sure you lot are bored of listening to my voice now. So, yeah, you lot, for your super chats, for your talking points, for your differences of opinions, for your general support, big up yourselves. Make sure you're smashing the like button and all that good stuff. Content to come out on the platform, so make sure the notification bell's on. Join me tomorrow at 12:20, 10 minutes before kickoff for Man United against Southampton. And then, obviously, an hour before kickoff on Sunday, it's North London derby settings. The time for talking is done. On the topic of North London derbies, there's some previews to come out on my platform, so make sure you're checking out the description and you're following on playback, because we can have a lot of fun there. Also, do make sure you're following my second YouTube channel. Most importantly, you lot stay safe, stay blessed. Peace.
I think